Hey everybody, and welcome to Lost in the Groove. Today, we have an interview with not only a queen, but a strong and incredible individual that I'm so amazed to be here talking with. Deanna, do you want to introduce yourself to our audience? Who are you? Who is Deanna?
Who is Deanna? Well, thank you for calling me a queen. My best friend calls me that, and I appreciate it.
Of course, honey.
Yes, but well, I think we all have unique stories, and we've all gone through some kind of trauma or something that's been life changing. For me, I grew up in a very abusive home. My father is a deadbeat. Took off. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. So I had to start out at an early age, just having to survive. I worked 2 jobs at 16, giving my mom half my paychecks, went to the food pantries for us. And so that kind of like set the tone for my life for the next 10 years. And then I met my late husband. I was with him for almost half my life when he passed. But we had a very big lifestyle, flew private. We had 5 businesses. The year before he passed, I closed a $20 million contract for one client with the state. It was with the state of South Carolina. So I doubled the size of our company.
Wow.
I was the vice president of key accounts and business operations. He was grooming me to be president. He kind of lost it at the end. The last 8 months of his life, he just was not, the last month he couldn't even walk. But
Mind me asking, what exactly happened to him? Like, was it cancer? What exactly?
no, he was a big steroid user. So I'm a former bodybuilder.
Oh,
And so I met
okay.
him I met him through a friend at the gym. So he had seen me at the gym, and he bugged my friend to take me to lunch. And he pursued me for about 6 months before I actually would give him the time of day. I was like not interested. I just gotten out of an abusive relationship, and I just was not interested in dating. And so I finally finally went out to lunch with him. And then it just, we dated for a while, and, things just evolved. But he was big into steroids. He was a big man, 6 foot, to about 330 pounds when I first met him.
Oh,
He
that's
would,
big.
yeah,
That's real big, honey.
yeah. He needed his third kidney transplant when he passed. And so
I.
the last 2.5 years of his life, I was administering dialysis. I was running the business. I was pushing him in wheelchairs through the airport with the frickin' dialysis machine on my shoulder. Just like, it was insane. I look back at that time and like, holy crap, I can't even believe everything that I was able to manage and
My dad.
stay sane. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
like me. Like my dad had. My dad, he passed away. And towards like he needed to go on dialysis. His kidneys failed,
that's
and he couldn't. He couldn't take it. His heart gave way the following day. It's just. I relate to you so well over here. Like,
so sorry to hear for your loss.
thank you. But it's something you don't understand unless you're like there. Like you're just saying, like, oh my God, yeah, like just thinking about it. And when I was there, I'm also like putting myself in that headspace. It's really you don't know what to think at the time.
No,
You just don't.
you just kind of just go like you're on autopilot. I mean,
Yeah.
he gave up. He was still injecting steroids, when he was on dialysis. And so I would fight with him all the time. Like, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. He had 4 daughters from a previous marriage. I'm like, you have daughters to live for. If I'm not enough, like you have daughters. He had a grandchild on the way, because he was about 12 years older than me. I had daddy issues when I met him, clearly. So, but we were a great complement to each other in business. I mean, we were a total power couple, but he gave up. Like I say he ultimately killed himself,
Yeah. I mean, we again, similarities over here. My dad, before he passed away, he stopped taking his medications.
Yeah.
He was on like 13 different pills. And he just didn't like, there was just no.
Yeah. They
He,
don't want to they don't want to go anymore. Like it's
uh,
the quality of life. Like what I think I'd probably, if my quality of life was so poor, do I really want to continue being in misery? Like
right.
he had open heart surgery during that time too. Like he had to have like a valve replacement, and then he went on blood thinners. Then the blood thinners caused him to pop an artery in his lung, and so he was in the hospital through the 4th of July for a month. Like it was,
Jesus.
it was
Yeah. It's bad.
yeah, it's like your father. It was probably for him, same thing, just an
Yeah.
ongoing thing.
Yeah, it was bad.
Always in the hospital. My little dog is acting a little crazy over here, so I got to grab her and sit her down.
That's all right. We have fluff buddies or fur babies on this podcast. Myself, I have Twixie. So any barking, meowing, scratching, fleeing, ticking, any of that is okay on here. We welcome it.
Great, love it.
So it's strange because when you're a person that spends your life with this person,
Hmm.
and you build a life, whether you build a business or have fortunes and have accessibility with this person, what boils down to is now you no longer have that shoulder to turn to. You no longer have that person to rely on anymore because they're no longer here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was definitely so at the end, I did end up having an affair because he was just like it was like living with a ghost, and so it probably wasn't the best decision in my life, but that kept me distracted with everything that was going on. I was like I was a shell of a person, and that relationship didn't work out. I think that was just a comfort for me as I was going through all the turmoil, because shortly thereafter he passed away. And so um after he had like I had ended that affair, I was like completely alone for like a year, and it was really hard just to process everything. I had to go do some internal work and like really just find like who I wanted to be, because that life was great, but I wasn't happy in that life. I We sacrificed, all we did was work. We never were able to really enjoy the fruits of our labor and really just kind of live. I mean, we were living to work, not working to live, if that makes sense. And so
Hmm.
um I
It's
used
the
to never.
American dream, honey.
Yeah, I used to not even put the gas in my car. So, like, to do those simple things, that's kind of that was always taken care of for me. Like, all my car was always washed and gassed. I had cleaning ladies. I had we'd throw parties and I have servers. Everything was taken care of for me. So when I had to like start my life over and start doing these like simple things, it was hard because I did that. It was taking care of me for almost 17 years.
Right.
And it's just like the shift. But I have to say, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life, and my life is so much more simple. So that was just a part of my story, and I do miss Rich. His name was Rich, and I think about him, often because I had spent so much time with him. But he just that his time was done. He had that chapter had to
Right.
close for him,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So now that this is where we are today.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah,
We all start from somewhere,
yeah.
and you seem like an individual that has always thrived to be able to be successful, continue your goals. Uh, where did this all start for you?
Type A personality. I think probably being the oldest of five and having to like really, put that survival hat on when at a young age just really forced me to step into a leadership role. Number one, because I'm the oldest, and number two, really just protect my family. My mom, I was like a surrogate parent. It was me and my mom against the world, at like 16, and so I think, and I was just always working just to help out to help, and I wanted a car, I wanted my own things. And so, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. My grandparents had a printer company for generations on State Street in Chicago. So I used to go down there and I used to work down there and make my money. And then, just I was taught, a good work ethic from a very young age.
Yeah, it's just it's now, like, for yourself, with all the time that you've spent, with your marriage, and like you mentioned, your childhood raising your four siblings and your mom. What exactly have you done now? What has shifted? Like, what kind of path have you taken for yourself that's different than all of what you've been doing for the past, you know, so odd years of your life?
A lot of personal development, a lot of counseling, a lot of like really trying to turn inward and decide who I want to be, because I wasn't a happy person back then. And I've gone through a lot of growth in these last, because it's going to be almost 8 years now that he's been gone. And It was pretty crazy for me. I was off the rails for a little while because, that's a lot to go through. I was young. I mean, I'm only 46. So when I went through that, I was in my late 30s. I think that's very young to lose a spouse at that age,
Right.
especially one that I've been with for almost half my life. I met him in my early 20s, you know? And so, um, after he passed, I was always determined to get into fashion. I've always loved fashion at a young age, from my mom to from my grandmother. And, after he passed, I was able to pursue that. And I'm like, I just had blinders on. So I made a lot of mistakes, but I did it. I was on the runway in Rhode Island. I was on the design. I was a finalist for the Cadillac Design Challenge here in Chicago. I created 3 beautiful collections. My last collection, I did a huge event against human trafficking, and that was it. I was like, okay, I can't. If I had not gotten it off the ground after my 3rd collection, I was done. I couldn't keep throwing money at it. You have to have deep pockets to get into fashion, and I just did not have the resources to keep
Well,
going.
would you say it's because of the competition, or would you say it's because of competition of personalities?
I think it was the way I went at it. I think today with social media, if you start a brand like that, you could probably be very successful. If you I got some bad advice because I hired a consulting company out of Soho, New York, and their advice they gave me was old school advice. Like today, so they say you get a fit model that's like runway size. No, I should use my size as a fit model and have all the clothes designed to my size, because then I can wear them, I can show them off, I can post on social media, and
Right.
that probably would have helped me do a lot better and get that brand off the ground. So if I ever want to go back to it, I would have a better business plan on how to start designing clothes again. I know a lot about it now.
Well, I don't really talk about this very often, but I had a apparel business before this podcast. It was called Imagine Graphics Company, and it failed. Like I poured tons of money into it, and I ended up just going into debt. Um, it's a very hard market to go after,
Yeah.
and one thing that like people always ask is, well, why am I getting, why am I seeing any results?
Hmm.
Um,
I think people are weird about their clothes, and I didn't realize that going into it. Because
oh,
I
okay,
That's that was my thought. Like you could buy, you could buy like a t-shirt from Walmart for $5, or you can support a designer that creates a beautiful V-neck t-shirt with a fabulous fabric for $50. What are people going to spend on? Unless you're very well
Walmart.
known, or right, exactly. And so I was on the higher end. I had higher end designs. I would use silk chiffon. I use leather, like high end cotton blends.
Girl, you keep on going, honey. I'm gonna be horny until the end of this fucking podcast.
So, but that's what I found. And I was like, why am I not getting this off the ground? Because they were classic pieces that will never go out of style,
Right.
and I just couldn't. I think you just have to be around for a long, long time and create an incredible brand. And it's a very hard, like, it's like the good old boys club, like in the automotive industry. So it's like a club within the fashion industry. Like they have to want to let you in and let you be successful.
And there's a lot of, there's a lot of brands, especially here in the US, that have been very successful. Like one brand I could think of, because as a kid, these were the most two popular that we used to go to, which is H&M and Gap. Gap is failing. Like they're going out of business, and H&M is thriving. And the reason is that if you look at H&M, they're not American.
No.
They're not from here. They're from Europe.
Yeah.
But they know how to cater towards American taste with a European twist, and they do it really well, like adding in American cartoons and characters and stars and celebrities, colors that we would prefer during certain seasons. So that's a really great point you bring up.
Yeah.
Like brand understanding their audience is really important in building that.
Yeah. And yeah, that's yeah. So, anyways, that ended in 2019, and that's when I started the podcast. I probably will end up going back into fashion, but I would keep it very small, because I still have all my designs, and I pulled out some of them. I wore them about a week or so ago, and they're still very
Can I
on.
give you some advice?
Sure.
And I'm doing this now with my podcast. Just create merchandise for your podcast and
That's
use a print on demand. Like Um, if you're good at fashion design and you have the proper equipment, you can have that and have a company. Whenever somebody purchases it, they'll ship it out to them, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, I've looked into that, and I'm only one person. I can only do so much, man. And there's
Tell
only
me about it.
the day. I'm actually I have I have a significant other. I'm remarried, so I have someone I've got to like be mindful of
Look
too.
at you.
Oh yeah, we've moved on. We are doing very good. Life is beautiful.
That's good. It's a
Yeah.
good perspective and it's a good shift. It's something, believe it or not, a lot of people have a hard time doing. A lot of people just stay in
Yeah.
a rut and never come out of it.
I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be cynical. I don't want to be angry. Life is so one thing that what the experience of my late husband has taught me is that life is very short. And like watching him lose his battle with life really had a lasting effect on me. And it's like every day you have an opportunity to go after your dream, to make a positive impact, and to you can decide who you want to be and how you want to feel when you wake up in the morning. I don't care what happens during the day. Shit's gonna happen, man. Life happens. Like
Right.
you're gonna have a lot of great days, and then boom, you're gonna be hit with a lot of shit that's gonna be like, what the fuck? The sky is falling, but the sky is not falling. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna get through it. It's about the journey, not the destination. And it's so my fiance just had like a meltdown the other day, like in 3 days in a row, and I'm like, it's not doomsday, man. The sky's not falling. You're gonna get through it. Like there's a solution to every problem. I don't want to hear all the bad. It's gonna. So what are you gonna get mad about? Why are you getting mad? Because you can't control these things. What you can control is how you react to them. And I get upset because I'm an empath, and I'm like man, you're getting me upset, and I like everything's gonna be fine. And guess what? It was all fine. The very next day, everything worked out. And I said, I told you. I said, everything worked out. It's going to work out. It always will. It
As
always,
as George Harrison puts it, all things must pass. All
yes.
things must pass away. And it's you know, for me, I my life started in 2017, the life that I am now.
Yeah.
And one thing you realize along the road is the less shits and fucks you give, the more things you can actually accomplish. Don't pour all of your time and energy and interest. This is why we have 8 to 9 to 5 jobs here in this country. This is why corporate America owns and runs the government here in this country, is because of this horrible, horrible, old fashioned. You remember, like you said earlier, this old timey thinking, authology of like work, 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 work. Just keep on pushing, hustle. Yeah, you got to work harder, bruh. You can work as fucking hard as you want, but guess what? You're still going to be unsuccessful. That doesn't lead to success.
Yeah. And
Doesn't.
success means different things for different people too.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not made for corporate. I tried it after my obviously I had to. I had to get like restart my life because I almost lost everything. And I'm more of I question leadership too much because I was a leader and in corporate that does not go over very well. So I'm not employable in the corporate realm.
I managed to weasel myself in, even though I don't belong.
Yeah, how do you work up with that hair? Are they okay with your hair?
Yeah, they're okay with my hair. I work in a corporate office, but the really funny thing is there's a bunch of us hippies in the office. Like we're hippies. Like we don't belong there, and like they know we don't belong there, and we don't give a shit about what they say. We don't give a fuck about their meetings and bullshit. Like, of course, I'm going to be compliant. I have to. I work in the medical industry, but they're aware of this.
Yeah.
But they don't. It's like they just turn a blind eye to it. It's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting. I'm sure you
Yeah.
do your job. It's not like you're going in and just not giving a fuck about your job, right?
No, 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 no. I'm just saying that, like, my philosophy is I go in there for a paycheck. I do there to do my job and service and get out. I'm not interested in being there like, yeah, let's work for the company,
Oh
work
yeah.
hard.
But you have to have those people though. And that's what I say. God bless
Yeah,
those that can do that. Like my little sister, she's all corporate. Like I'm not. We're so opposite. And
right.
that's been a problem in our relationship because we are not the same. We're not the same person. But we need people like that. Like if we didn't have people in the corporate world that were for the corporate machine, like where would we be as a society? I mean, because we have so many large organizations that help support this, this flow that we have in the world. There we have to have people like you. We have to have people like me, and so on and so forth. That's just what it is.
The thing is, you can have a negative. There's always negative effects from all things.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate has a lot of negatives, but there are a lot of benefits, which especially people don't realize, which is accessibility.
Yeah.
Because of corporate, you have Walmart with all of its problems. Ask any mom, ask any single mom, whenever it came the time that she needed to get, supplies for her kids, let's say formula or things for her toddler, there was ease and accessibility of a place called Walmart for them to be able to purchase things
Yeah.
at an affordable price. I don't know. I try to be able to have a positive outlook and prospect, because here's the thing. There's so much that we can change and
Right.
so many things that we can't. So the question is, what can you, Deanna, what can I, Dave, do for ourselves that we can change,
As far
instead of focusing on what the rest of the world is. We always look at the bigger picture.
I don't focus on the rest of the world. I'm like, what I can change. The only thing
Right.
that I can change is myself, and how I view things. That the reason why I started my podcast was because I was tired of the labels that the world society was putting on me, and I was expected to be a certain way. And I was just like, I'm done with that. So for me, I changed to the point where I let things roll off of me, and now I'm just living my best life.
Right.
I strive to have gratitude, peace. My peace is very valuable, and joy in my life every single day.
Yeah.
That's what I've changed for myself. Night and day from how I used to be.
The joy part I relate to really well. I find joys in, for example, playing music. You have a pet, I do too. Like, especially when you come home and they're barking and they want to play with you and they want you to, give them attention. It's little things. It's little things in life that you realize that are the most important.
Mhm. Amen. I totally agree.
Hmm.
Yes.
And I just like, talking with somebody like you, it raises the question of, there are so many people, especially in this country, such as ourselves, that are really focused on having this outlook of, I hate labels. I
Yeah.
can't stand them. I mean, for fucking sakes, I'm part of the LGBTQ community and I have to use fucking labels. I hate it.
Well, yeah, I personally don't agree with that. I think because I'm very accepting of everyone. Like
Yeah,
you be who you want to be. No judgment here, And so why can't we just love one another for who they are, instead of having to say, okay, well, you are in this crowd and you're in this crowd. Like, no, I don't want to be segregated or divided. I want us just to be like accepting and loving towards one another. I maybe that's like too woo woo. I know my fiance gets a little. He's like, oh man, you're just too
it's
woo
not.
sometimes, and I'm
It's
like,
not.
no, I've just reached a different level of consciousness where I've like this. I'm in this spiritual place where I just feel like love is really necessary, and I don't like to judge people. I think that that's a terrible. My late husband was so judgmental, and I had started taking that on when I was with him, when I was married to him, and it's like, that is an ugly place to be. It's a very
Right.
ugly place to be, and so I had to start shedding all that toxicity when he passed, and like that was a journey for me to get rid of all that and get back to who I truly was. And I was this person all along, but the world beats you down and creates monsters within us that we have to battle and like really fight them to stay our true authentic selves, a good version of our true authentic selves, not a bad version, because there's good and bad.
The thing is, my philosophy is this: is that I can I can respect you.
Right.
I don't have to agree with you.
Correct. 1000% agree. I mean, we saw that with COVID. Oh my god, fucking COVID. I mean, your viewpoint might be different than mine, but I was like, this is bullshit.
Killed my dad, but yeah.
Well, and that's unfortunate, but like it divided my family terribly, and it's like
Hmm.
I respect your viewpoint, but you have to respect mine. Like I'm not going to force my views on you. Okay, fine. This is scaring you. I understand. I get it, but we don't have to be against each other for it. I mean, that was so divisive. Like that
Well, the
whole
thing for me, the biggest thing was the whole thing with the social distancing, because I tried to be as respectful as I can, but there were times where people were trying to get in conflict. Oh, like you can't do this. I'm like, listen, listen to me. I'm going to respect your opinions, but I don't agree with you. So don't try to force your political agenda on me that I'm not interested in hearing.
right.
Uh,
Oh, that's really. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry if you lost your dad from it, but a lot of that was all political.
yeah,
That
it
whole,
was.
whole thing was
The
all,
whole thing was political.
and it's like I mean, now look at where we're at today with it. Okay,
Oh my
nobody,
god.
you don't need the vaccine. I mean, I mean, if you're older and you're compromised, yes, you should be getting vaccines for yourself. But if you're a healthy individual, you really don't need to do that.
Well,
If you're
they've already. I mean, I don't want to get because again, I'm no analyst, no researcher or anything, but
right,
like look where we are right now. Okay, 3 years after the pandemic. Okay, I'm going to be very honest with you. You now have this insanity of a movement of wokeness. You have all of this craziness that's going on, and people are like, where did this come from? I'll tell you where it came from. There were people that were already like off the cliff pre-pandemic.
yeah,
So you create this whole facade and this whole carnival and circus for a year with quarantines and all of this.
yeah,
Now they're all nuts. Their
yeah,
minds completely snapped. So what you're seeing on TikTok, all of these people, that's what happened to them.
yeah, yeah. It was unfortunate. I mean, I don't know. I try not to be. I mean, I live by myself, but I tried to stay aligned with people that had the same viewpoint as me. And we'd have parties. We got together, had parties. I mean, I was having a blast. I'm like, I'm having so much fun, and I loved going into the city because nobody was on the road. I was like,
Nobody,
great.
nobody, nobody. It was crazy.
I went to
Yeah, like,
I went to the rallies. I was like, yeah. And I never went to a rally in my life, but that felt good because it was something I believed in.
yeah.
You shouldn't be shutting down all these entrepreneurs, all these businesses. Like I thought that was ridiculous, but whatever. I digress. That's a whole nother thing.
You
Thank
know,
God.
it is. Then, like, here we are 3 years later. Uh, you know, I don't even know like where we're going, to be honest. I try to I'm the same way. Like I try to stick around with like-minded people. I am open-minded, but here's the thing. I'm not interested in talking to a bunch of insane liberal conservative woke. I'm not interested. It's not my demographic. I don't have time, I don't have energy. I just want to, you know, be able to talk with people that I can relate with.
Yeah.
Um God, the world has gotten so complicated.
It's really kind of like it's a little scary, like what's happened. Like
Yeah.
people losing their jobs because they didn't want to take a vaccine. I think that's wrong. That's your body. You should have your own autonomy. Like I thought, like that was just crazy. I'm like, what's happening? Like we don't have control of our bodies anymore. Like
No.
it was just like I mean, my mind was blown, and I was like freaking out. I'm like, this is what's happening. It's just a very I think that they wanted to see how far they could go with controlling people, and there's a whole other agenda with what they took us through, and I don't think it's done yet.
Okay. I'm gonna bring this up because you mentioned this about human trafficking. Okay, and I know this because I've spoken to quite several people. Do you know when human trafficking spiked here in the United States?
No, but I know that it's an ongoing, really bad problem.
Four
Because
years. 4 years after they created the war on drugs. 4 years it took. About. I'm not again. I might be skewing the numbers. I think it was about like 4 or 5 years. Uh, but the reason being is when they did that, what happened? You had all of these mafia groups, especially the cartel in the earlier days.
mm-hmm.
They needed to be able, they now can make tons of profits. They started setting themselves up. But here's the thing, it's it's expensive to get workers.
Yeah.
Very expensive to get workers. Why don't we just, kidnap people and put them in vans and force them to work in making meth and heroin and
Yeah.
cannabis and all these illegal places? So you want to talk about human trafficking? Human trafficking is caused because of the government saying, no, 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 you can't do cannabis. No, you can't do cocaine. No, 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 you can't do mushrooms. No, 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 you're not allowed.
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
That's interesting. I never put that together. I mean, I just know like how bad it is and the things that, there's that side of things where they're using people for labor but there's the other side of it where people, young babies and young children are getting abused within the family home, the dynamic, or, being abducted and being used for the sexual
Yeah, but look
purposes.
how many layers. Look how many layers it goes down. But remember, all of this boils down to is control. The second you have a government that, or an environment or a society that is okay with control, you have human trafficking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the effect of the dominoes.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's you did your homework. I'm impressed. Yeah, but yeah, we see eye to eye on that for sure.
I just, you have to ask yourself this question. We are literally almost 60 years ahead of Nixon, because I've said this before. Nixon is one of the biggest reasons of our downfall. The reason why we're having a lot of problems now is because of him and Lyndon B. Johnson before. The two of them together. Like that period, that environment, that government that existed. And it has nothing to do with politics. The thing is that when you are a part of this nation,
Yeah.
laws and rules and regulations change. And what happens is you don't think about it anymore. Like, you remember when they used to have pictures on milk bottles?
Yes. Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. No longer.
Nope.
That's crazy.
Isn't it weird? It's kind of like we don't talk
Very
about
weird.
it. It's like, shh, we don't talk about the cartel. Shh. We don't want to talk about human trafficking. No, 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 no. We don't talk about these
No.
things.
No, when I did the event against human trafficking, like nobody wanted to talk about it. And it
Nope.
was it was crazy to me that people didn't want to be educated, especially if you have children or if you are part of a family, you should know some of these things. Like you should know like what's going on around you. It's like it's very scary.
Well,
People love to be ignorant because it's bliss for them.
mhm.
I'm sorry, but to me, ignorance is not bliss. I want to be very aware. Like I don't watch the news though, because that's just too much propaganda for me. But I do get bits and pieces of what's going on from other resources. But
Right.
I just feel like people want to stick their head in the ground and be oblivious to certain things, especially when it comes things that are things that are very sensitive. That's a very sensitive subject. My little dog, she's just running all over the place. Come on.
Well, it's more than just being sensitive. It's the here we have we have a phone in our hands that the components that are in that phone were made by slaves in the Congo. It's this is like so baffling. We live in this society of like people are like, save the planet, da da da. You're doing it on a phone made with materials made by slaves.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind
That's
of
deep. That's
hypocritical in
deep.
its point.
That's deep.
Yeah,
Wow. Dang, my brother. Holy cow.
I told you. It
Yeah.
keeps on it's like it's just layers. It's like a layer of an onion. It keeps on going. And the thing is that you can avoid it as much as you want,
Yeah.
but it's going to creep up on you.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Yeah.
I mean, besides your work doing like helping awareness for human trafficking, have you done any other things,
As far as what? Charity work?
or like any programs that you've gotten yourself involved with?
No, only because I'm a survivor of human trafficking, sex work. Like that was I was exposed to it by an ex-boyfriend, and so that I'm just very passionate about it. Had I known a little bit more about what that meant, because I don't like 'cause when you're so young and impressionable, you're very easily manipulated. And had I think this is a subject that really needs to be kind of addressed in school at an early age. They say no to strangers, but what did that actually mean back then? Say no to strangers. Say no to some person trying to make you do things that you shouldn't be doing, i.e., some kind of sex act, because that's really like what it comes down to. And so I just really try to do like a food drive, craft drive for different charities that bring human trafficking awareness, or are housing women that have been in that unfortunate situation. So other than that, no, I don't really work with any other charities.
It's you mentioned that you you got fascinated because of a boyfriend that was.
Not fascinated. I think that you get manipulated into thinking like, oh, this is normal. And it turns into something else. Like, that whole time period in my life, I got heavy into drugs. Luckily, I didn't become an addict. I like to play, I like to party hard, but I don't need it, right? So I'm blessed that that never turned into something worse, because I probably wouldn't be here today if that was the case, because I was partying my ass off. And I think it was just a combination of just, self-soothing, self-medicating, and that whole lifestyle, because that whole lifestyle, it does involve a lot of drugs.
Yeah, I mean, for me though, like as a teenager, the biggest thing was pills.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
I dabbled in pills for a little bit. Then I just got sick and tired chasing it. I was like, "Oh, I'm done."
yeah, it was a fun ride. Do I miss it? No. It the thing is, it causes scars in your life because I've lost people to overdose and suicide, and um
That's terrible.
it is, and it's so strange because these are normal things that happen every single day.
Yeah.
Like, people say, "Oh, human trafficking is not that frequent." Oh my God, it is. It happens during the day. It happens in front of schools. It
And
happens in front of the.
it happens on this thing now. It's they go after kids off from social media. So if your kid has a cell phone or has like Instagram, Snapchat, have these different apps, they go after the young girls or young boys on these different platforms. Like, it's a lot easier, a lot accessible, a lot more accessible for these predators to go after young people, male and female. Like the boys that get it, that happens to, a lot of them don't survive. There's a very low survival rate. They end up taking their own lives.
I know,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
and it's kind of like we live in a completely different world because, like, I'm not that old. I'm in my 20s. I'm 24, but since I've been born throughout my childhood, my whole life is like been like three different decades. It was the 90s, like the 2010s, and then now.
Yeah,
And just like seeing the changes that have happened,
isn't
it's
it a
only
lot?
been
It's a lot for you too, right?
only 20 years.
Yeah,
Like, think about you for yourself. Like, you're in your 40s.
yeah.
In your lifetime, think about any time period that you've been alive that things have changed so frequently is now.
That's what's scary about it, is like where it's going, because it's not going anywhere good. And I think that people don't realize that a lot of these things that I see it. Like, when COVID hit, I'm telling you what, I went down that rabbit hole. I started reading, started digging, and I was like, I was blown away by all the shit that I was reading and all the things. You could call me a conspiracy theorist, but I started putting things together, and I was following the path, and I found these articles that I was just like, whoa, why is this stuff not, why are people not seeing this? And so when they want to start forcing all this stuff on us, I'm just like, this is very crazy. Trying to take away, well, this is supposed to be the land of the free. We're supposed to have freedom of choice. And I'm like, this is not going anywhere good. And
No,
I'm like, I don't care what position you're in. If you enjoy the freedom of choice, then you have got to go on the side of right, because where things are going, you're not gonna. I can guarantee 99% of people aren't gonna like it, right? No matter what position you are. I mean, like, let's just be real.
I get labeled as a conservative, which I am, but I'm a libertarian, and I am also very, very liberal in regard. But sorry.
It's okay.
That being said, it's where you get be like we said earlier, you get pushed into this label
Yeah.
of you're this.
I think that's a good balance though, because I probably am a little bit of the same. People label me as a conservative. I think I'm a conservative, but I'm also a little bit more liberal in some of my viewpoints, you
Yeah,
know, like yourself. And I think that's a good place to be because it allows you to see both sides, not too extreme on either.
it's progressive conservatism in a
Yeah.
way, but yeah, not what people. I'm going to be very careful with my words
Yeah.
because what
Be careful.
be very
We're
careful because what people
gonna
think of
act like there's going to be a target, like, oh, shit.
uh, my version of progressive. Let's just put it my version of progressive conservatism. Okay.
I like it. I like it.
Oh, but to emphasize on this, uh, about in 1969, and throughout the late 60s, you had this movement of hippies, and there was a lot of stupidity that went around, like this idea of not working and not really having a strong structure or a foundation of where do you want to go and exactly what you're fighting for.
Right.
Today, whether we realize this or not, there are more hippies now
Hmm.
than there was 50 years ago. There's
Interesting.
so many more of us. And the thing is, we are actually the ones that are holding the independent industries. Most of the independent industries, like independent artists, record labels,
Yeah.
fashion designers, they're all hippies.
Yeah.
They're all hippies that were born in the past 20 or 25 years or 30 years or
Wow.
so years. Yeah. Like again, it's a shift of the parallels of worlds where we change and get worse, but then it gets better. I don't know any other way of explaining it.
Hmm. Wow. I like it. Hmm. You're a smart. I'm not gonna say kid, but you've got a very like old soul viewpoint for your age. Very like dialed in. That's good. I like it.
I would say cannabis, but
Ah, I used to love smoking pot, man. I loved it. I had my vape and I would do it before the gym and then after the gym and just, yeah, I used to love it. Not anymore. I
it
gotta,
helps me it helps me podcast really well because I'm able to dial in and like for example, like talk with you. Um I mean, kind of just like going back to you said you're doing a podcast. It's called Label Free?
yes, label
Label
free.
Free.
Live
Shout
your
out to Label Free podcast.
To live your best life, live label free. And it means something different to everyone. All I know is that it really resonates with a lot of people. And I love the conversations that I have. And I think that they're very empowering, inspiring, motivational. And there's always some great takeaway from each conversation.
I really like that. I really like that dynamic of no labels, like free labels. Uh, I know people love to associate labels. I heard this. This was from somebody. I don't remember his name. I saw a clip of this earlier today, which is your name is just a name.
Hmm.
You're not your name. Your name was given to you by your parents.
Right.
So you want to use that, sure. But I think the best part is when you're able to talk with somebody and just remove that and say, hey, like, what is what inspires you?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing now? Like what's going on? Like my always favorite is, so hey, you been having fun this weekend?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. No, yeah, I agree with that. That's a great viewpoint to have. You're more than just your name. Yeah.
So what kind of conversations do you have with these like what kind of people are you bringing on and talking with?
A lot of coaches, authors, artists, entrepreneurs,
Ooh,
really people that have kind of found their own way, right?
right.
Somebody from corporate that decided like they had a breaking point or an aha moment and they just wanted to follow the people that have found their true purpose in life. And I think that the more people that find their purpose are, it's going to be a better world, right? Instead of having people walking around just programmed to be a certain way, like, what is your passion? What is your dream? You should never lose sight of your dreams and start going after a little bit at a time so that you can feel more fulfilled. There are so many shells of human beings out there that are just, they're not good people. When a person loses their way and loses sight of what makes them, that creates that joy and creates that passion, and like they have their eyes on their dreams, like that's like when I think when people just kind of give up, they give up and they start just being a very ugly version of themselves.
Right. I think it's also where people there are a lot of people that are artistic
Hmm.
and they get beaten by the world and
Oh
they
yeah.
just keep doing the same things at it again, and then they get married and they're stuck in this marriage with kids and they can't get out, and they're bitter. They're very, very bitter towards the world.
Yeah.
um no one says being an artist, an entrepreneur, an author, or even a coach is going to be easy.
No, but does it bring you joy? Does it bring you
Yeah.
fulfillment? Like, I think so. I am the happiest I've ever been in my life. I am totally fulfilled. I have authentic joy in my, and I've really believe I found my purpose. I mean, it is different creating a business within the podcasting space, but I've been able to do it and we are growing. And, I hope that it continues to yield a successful life for myself. But I am successful by what I've created. And so I know that.
Yeah. It's a very good outlook. It's a very good outlook to go by, because when you're when you're doing podcasting, one of the hardest things is being authentic and being
Why?
yourself.
Why do you think that is?
Because a lot of people view podcasting very similar to broadcasting, where it needs to be very structured and scripted.
Oh no,
Um,
not at all. No,
no, I know. I don't. I can't do that. Oh God, no. I
no.
sound like a fucking robot.
Yeah. No, I think the magic happens in the authenticity of the conversation.
Just the
Like, I don't have
flow.
to have any right, the flow. I have zero preconceived questions going into any conversation. I read their bio before I jump into the recording, and then I like to start out the conversation just highlighting a part of their journey and going from there and talking about it and kind of ultimately getting to where they are today. And that's where, you start pulling out those pearls of wisdom and that insightfulness and that those inspiring moments that really can resonate with your audience. And so, that's just how I operate, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's a thing that you grow with,
Oh,
because like
yes.
I've been doing this for about 2 years, and where I started to where I am now, like 2 years. I'll be honest with you. 2 years ago, I couldn't have a conversation with you.
Really? Why not?
I wouldn't know what to say. I would probably be stumbling. I would get lost. Because there are things that I've learned along the way from other guests, from conversations that I've had
Yeah.
and learned about, that have allowed me to have, I guess you want to call it a knowledge base,
Mm,
a place to know where to go. Because again, like we were just saying, it's all about authenticity.
right.
Being authentic is, I'm not going to say it's easy or hard, but you have to know yourself to do it. You can't be
But
authentic and be
you don't
fake.
think that you knew yourself 2 years ago?
No,
I
not
like
really. I was
no.
still working. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you can admit that. That's great that you know that about yourself. I mean, but if you have like a good guest that comes on, and or you don't even have to look at it as a guest. You can just look at it two people that are meeting, getting to know each other.
Right.
And I was a guest on a show the other day, and the host was super nervous because of, I guess, of who I am, and I'm like, I don't. I'm nobody, and I'm like, just relax. It's no big deal. We're gonna have a great conversation. And she calmed down and relaxed, and it ended up being good. But it was very interesting. I was like, kind of, I've never seen that before, and I was just like, whoa, okay, it'll be good. Don't worry, we're fine. Let's just roll with it, man. Let's go.
Yay. I know, and it takes, believe it or not, for me it took me a while to just say fuck it. Come on, let's do this.
It's all about having that connection. Like
Yeah.
I I want to jump into a conversation with my guest and just make that connection with them. Cause like I'm open. Like I'm open. Like we just connected very easily and it's just flowing very nicely. And it's because I'm open and I want to connect with you and I want to have that dialogue. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. I think the more conversations that are out there in the world like this, where people can be open to each other, is, it's really showing that vulnerable side.
Yeah, and it really just shows that the days of mainstream media are over.
Yes, agreed.
It's over. Like we are. I'm not afraid to fucking say this. I'm taking over. Like I believe that I will be bigger than CNN one of these days. They can go fuck themselves
Right. So
royally.
when we start our network, you can join us.
Fucking a.
Yeah.
Sure.
We're going to be on Apple TV soon. So you can come join
Really.
our network. Yeah.
Oh my god. I'm telling you, the shows that have been going on Apple TV, they're so fucking good. And a lot of here's the thing for a lot of people that's listening to this. Apple TV has a lot of their shows are made by independent studios and artists.
Yep.
So they're not made by Sony. They're not made by Universal or Disney. These are people that like pour in, they get $3 or $4 million and they make a film. They make like a film or a TV series.
Yep. We're going to do it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm already starting.
So what do
It's
you make it? What are you making a
going to be our own network with podcasters that have video content.
Get out of here. Really?
Yeah.
That's fucking
I
amazing.
think we're going to call it, I mean, my team doesn't know this yet, but I think I'm going to call it the label free group. So the group of podcasters, independent creators, and like the acronym would be like, let's fucking go.
Fucking hey. I love that.
I just saw that the other day and I'm like, I like that. I mean, my team has been giving me a lot of different names, but I'm like, I like that, because the acronym
Yeah.
stands for two different things. So
It's a strong message, but also a beautiful message at the same time.
yeah.
Um, like I believe it or not, I did not purposely make this look this way it did. It just kind of like turned out the way it was.
Okay.
But I try to kind of always keep myself in this like vibe.
Hmm.
And I want to hear like your thoughts on this too. Like as an artist, the things that like help us stay creative. Like sometimes I like to put on music, light some
Yeah.
candles, get into a zone. Girl, what is your zone? I want to hear like how do you get into yours?
My zone of like when I'm getting ready to record.
Yeah, or like if you want to, you're working on something.
Music is a big thing for me. Yeah, or some. I mean, music a lot of times, but sometimes just silence too. Like, um, I can get myself very easily overwhelmed because I have a lot of different projects,
Yeah,
going on at the same time, and so
I
you know,
feel you.
anybody's doing podcasting that's been doing it for a while, I give them a lot of credit because it's not easy. There's a lot of steps involved, and for
Yeah,
getting one episode out there, let alone multiple ones over the course of years, and promoting it across social media and all those things, and building up your mailing list or your email list. All there's a lot that goes into it. So I personally get overwhelmed. So sometimes I just have to sit with myself and kind of like almost meditate. But a lot of times just music. Like I love my music. I like
what
to
kind of
like.
music? What kind of music do you listen to?
So recently, like ZHU, Alderbrook, I like a lot of EDM stuff,
Oh,
yeah. Some softer type stuff too sometimes, just like dance around.
well, sometimes like I'll throw on like Diana Ross or Billy Idol or something like that. But I can definitely get into EDM. I do. I love EDM. I love house.
Yes.
Um,
House music all night long.
yeah, R&B. Oh, I love Soul House. You ever listen to Soul House?
I'm sure I have, yeah.
Girl, oh my god, it's just like I just want to work until 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh,
He says. That's awesome.
but I totally like getting into a zone, getting into a vibe. I feel it's like so like healthy and beneficial, and I totally get that too. Because sometimes I'll just like when I'm driving to work, I don't listen to anything. I just sit in my car and just have a silent drive.
I like yeah, I do that a lot too because it's good. It's good for you just to kind of like be with your thoughts. Just sit there
Yeah,
with your thoughts because I think a lot of people like a lot of noise and I used to people used to think I was weird that I'd go out to eat by myself. Like I didn't
I
think
do
it was
too.
weird. And I just, because I mean, you have to be able to like your own company to be with someone else. Because if you don't like your own company, who's gonna like your company then?
I took
I just
myself to the movie yesterday.
good for you. I used to do that too. I
I
mean,
love it.
now I have a partner and we do a lot of things together. But
Of
before that,
course.
I did I did that by myself. I didn't care. You know, why would I care? I mean,
Exactly.
I think it's good. And you're in a healthy spot if you can, you can be by yourself.
Well, shout out to Carissa, which is the host of American Groove, which is a Lost in the Groove segment. She told me that, who fucking cares? You want to go listen to music, go listen to music. You want to go watch a movie, go watch a movie. Like, only person that's stopping you is yourself. And I
Exactly.
was like, fuck you, Carissa, and your good advice. But
Yeah.
it's true. And I started doing that, and oh my God. I'm so happy that you can relate to this too, because it's it's so hard to like just stop and think for a second, just stop.
Hmm.
I do that with myself and just stop for a second, just
Yeah.
take a breath.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on over here?
Hmm.
Um, because I just feel like everything's just so fast paced. You work, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you do what you got to do, you come home, you do more. Like, my schedule, I do more work, try to relax, and then go to sleep, and then repeat.
Yeah. I mean, but it's good to have like structure in your life, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, I try to find the peace within doing mundane things like cleaning the house, maybe having the music off, cleaning the house and just being present in the moment. That allows you to kind of slow down, like mindfully slow down and just be present. Because I think that we keep thinking of the next, the next, the next, the next, like what's on the schedule, especially if you have a schedule like yourself where it's very structured. It's like got groundhog day every day. So, it's good to have things that where you can just be present and just focus on what you're doing in that moment. That'll help feel like you're slowing things down for yourself.
Yeah, and I think with that, we're gonna slow down the record.
That's right.
Deanna, it's been an absolute blast and an absolute privilege. I mean, fucking A. When do you have an opportunity to speak with a queen such as yourself?
Aw,
Um,
thank you.
you're welcome. Where can these beautiful people find you on the socials?
I'm everywhere, baby. You Google search me, you're gonna find me like little pages long. Label Free Podcast, Deanna Radulescu. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the things, and our website, labelfreepodcast.com. And as I said, we're getting ready to launch our network, which is going to be very cool. And I can't wait to share that with everybody too. So if they start following me now, they're going to get updates on that. And it's going to be kind of like a little bit of a podcast revolution. I think I'm going to start a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Fingers
Hopefully. Yeah, fingers crossed.
yeah,
Fingers crossed.
yes. I'm trying to be innovative over here. But yeah, I'm on all the things, reach out to me, follow me, connect with me. I love to share inspiring things to keep people motivated and stay positive.
Thank you for that. And for all of you wonderful groovy people out there, if you want to check out more of Lost in the Groove, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. So with that, be sure to check us on the next week's episode. Stay groovy, my friends. Bye.